So, welcome everybody. Thanks for sharing with me how much you know about Google Analytics. I'm here to learn just like you. Today, we're going to be talking about unlocking insights for impact, navigating Google Analytics GA4. Somebody already said they knew about GA3. My name is Aretha Simons. I'm the webinar producer here. I'm going to show you how you can engage together. I'm going to tell you actually, there's plenty of people from TechSoup and Cause Inspired to answer your questions. So make sure you put them in the chat or the Q&A. Put them in the Q&A. We'll be answering them at the end, or maybe if it gets overloaded, they'll answer them right along. One thing I want you to know, this is being recorded. You're going to get the recording and the slides. It's going to be a 2-question survey. When you close the window, please take a moment to let us know how we're doing. I'm going to move out of the way and turn this over to Ben Abbas so he can teach us about Google Analytics. Welcome, Ben. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Aretha. Hi, everybody. I hope you're excited to learn a little bit more about GA4. Thank you so much for your responses. It helps me quite a bit to get a gauge of like where people are at, especially some people just being really honest of like, I have no clue about GA4. That's totally okay. And honestly, that's what this presentation is great for. This is ground level zero, essentially, of figuring out what is GA4, why is it useful, and kind of unlocking the first steps to really utilizing it and on your journey to master it. So with that being said, let's get started. First of all, welcome. Who am I? I'm Ben. I'm from Cause Inspired here. I am a team lead and a senior digital marketing consultant. Cause Inspired is a full-service digital marketing agency serving the nonprofit sector, specializing in managing the Google Ad Grant. We are a leading solution provider for nonprofits looking to expand or nurture their digital reach, with over 500 nonprofits trusting us to manage their $120,000 per year free ad spend from Google that too many nonprofits do not take advantage of. Obviously, we are partnered here with TechSoup, which is putting on the webinar, and we would just like to say thank you again for hosting us. With that, small caveat here, little sidetrack already, and we're only about 2 minutes in. Earlier this week, I lost my voice, right? Which is not ideal for someone who's presenting a webinar. If I have to take a second and just drink some water once I feel a little bit raspy or I sound just terrible, please bear with me. Last thing I want to do is get halfway through this and have my voice completely go out, because I'm not sure if I can mime GA4 as effectively as I can talk about it. With that, let's talk about our TechSoup partnership. So together, we help nonprofits grow. We help maintain and grow their digital presence. We work with TechSoup to help nonprofits do the following: develop their donor funnels, foster donor relationships, solicit more volunteers, and then drive traffic to their events and their website as a whole. Uh, all of this using the Google Ad Grant. We are trusted by many. You may recognize some of the names that we have worked with in the past, from Volunteer Match to Global Giving, the Bridgespan Group, the United Nations, some pretty big global organizations. With that being said, I do not want these names to intimidate you. On my desk specifically, do I have nonprofits like this that have giant global reach? Yeah, absolutely. I also have on my desk small thrift stores in rural Wyoming that use the Google Grant to basically boost their sales during tourist seasons, right? The Google Grant is for a plethora of different nonprofits, and each requires their own unique strategy, their own unique setup in GA4, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So by all means, don't feel intimidated by any of these names. The Google Grant truly is for all nonprofits to take advantage of. Let's talk about what this session is going to look like. Like I said, this is 101, right? This is ground level. We're going to talk about first the options of setting GA4 up on your site. Basically, there are three main options that we can use that we're going to chat about, and that will help give you an idea of what is the optimal way, what is the least optimal way, the middle ground between the two, and then things to think about with that information unlocked as you talk about updating websites, changing to a new CMS potentially. All of those things will, or this information will help you make educated decisions moving forward on how to track your data. Then we're going to get into the meat of it, being the navigation review. With the responses that I got from you guys of, I don't know anything about GA4. I'm going to stress this again. That's completely okay. That's why we're here. Logging into a GA4 account for the first time, little bit daunting, right? Little bit daunting if you've ever tried to go in blind. But that's what we're going to do, and we're going to kind of talk through what are the main things that you can do starting out to just be dangerous in an account, right? Your board members, your bosses, CEOs, whoever it may be, they ask you a question about your website. I want to give you the tools to point you in the right direction. And while each website is case by case, of what information is actually available, this should give you the fundamental tools to walk away from this webinar just feeling more confident in your skills in GA4, especially if your skills, you would describe them as lacking or zero. Then we're going to move into audience insights. This is easily the most popular section of this presentation, and a question that I get asked by my clients all the time. Who is my audience? I want to know everything about them. Gaining insights into your website visitors, including their demographics, their interests, their behavior to tailor your outreach and your content. We're going to talk about key events. For those of you who have lived in the marketing world before, key events might sound a little bit new. Conversions, right? Conversions, key events. I've changed it in here for the newbies here because I want everybody to be able to navigate GA4 fresh, and Google, for whatever reason, has switched conversions to key events because I think they thought event to key event made more sense. Regardless, I want everybody to be on the same page with the newest information possible. Then we're going to just scratch the surface in custom reports, right? Custom reports, specifically the Explorer section, is where a lot of brand new people to GA4 can get lost and confused. So I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I do want to showcase it a little bit. Finally, we're going to go through a little bit of Q&A. I have three of my colleagues in chat that are ready to answer any of the questions that you may have. So if you have questions, put them in chat, put them in the Q&A. We've got people ready to answer them. If they don't get answered and you'd like to speak up after, or just put in chat during the Q&A at the very end, I'm more than happy to answer your questions then. With that, let's talk GA4. Also, if you ask a question while I'm in the midst of this, we have a lot of information to get through. I promise I'm not ignoring you. Setting up GA4. Like I told you, there are three main options here. Those three options, they depend heavily on your website, heavily on your CMS. They depend on what your website is capable of, what it's built in, right? A WordPress site is going to react differently than a Wix site, is going to react differently than a Squarespace site, which is going to react differently than a GoDaddy site. Each one of it has unique qualifications attached to it that may or may not be optimal for GA4, but we're going to kind of walk through those. First of all, the most optimal way you can install GA4 onto your website is through GTM or Google Tag Manager. If you have the option to add Google Tag Manager onto your site, it is going to make your life drastically easier for the future. And if you have a marketing team, if you have people under you, above you, it's going to make all of their lives easier as well, once everybody kind of grasps the concepts. Essentially, it allows you more freedom with adding and tracking custom conversions or key events, the ability to add or remove specific tracking parameters. You can create custom GA4 events specifically in GTM and then import them over without having to install code onto your site. I don't know about you guys. While I am a Google grant expert, I am not into coding on a website. I would get absolutely lost there. So the less we can do on that front, the better. We also can turn GTM on and off depending on your needs at the moment. And it can also be integrated to a new website or domain, provided that it also supports Google Tag Manager. You can't, let's say you can't have Google Tag Manager on your site. You've asked, Google Tag Manager is not an option. Well, there is the option to install it using a GA4 measurement ID. And I will show you how to find that measurement ID once we get into the actual showcase here. If your website does not support GTM and you have a built-in integration, all you have to do is plug in that GA4 measurement ID and it will start tracking data. It's not going to be as powerful as GTM, fair warning, but it will still give you the base knowledge that you need and the base data that's going to help you, again, be dangerous in GA4. Every website is different, and we recommend speaking with your website provider for more insight on this installation. I wanted to save this for the end, but it's a really important note. And maybe the most important note you can take away from this slide is, as you make decisions for the future, right? For your website, for your organization, switching to a CMS, updating your website, potentially if you're on a GoDaddy site and you're between Wix and Squarespace or WordPress. There are wild differences between all three. So making sure that you ask your consultant, your provider, anybody at TechSoup, anybody at Cause Inspired, we are more than happy to help you navigate those conversations. Can I find Google Tag Manager in the admin workspace? We will absolutely get into that. It depends if you have one created or not. With that, if I start answering questions now, I will become derailed. But let's say you can't have GTM and you can't have GA4. It's kind of the worst case scenario here. Essentially, you have to install the G tag directly on site. You know how I said I don't like to code on site? This is going to be one of those places where you're going to have to install the code directly into the meat of your website. There's also a link here that's going to be sent out when this presentation is sent out afterwards. This is a Google support link. It's going to help you kind of navigate what you do in those scenarios. But again, if you're in a scenario where you can't have GTM and you can't have GA4, I'm not here to tell you, like, you have to change your CMS right here, right now, but it is something to consider for the future as this digital ecospace becomes more fragmented and more complicated. The more data we have, the more transparent things are, the better off you're going to be for the future. Take a breath, Ben. Let's take a sip of water. All right, let's talk navigation. You get thrown into a Google Analytics account for the very first time. What do you see? There are three main areas that we're going to go over: reports, explore, and advertising. But we're going to really lean into the reports section. The reports section is going to be your best friend by far. Acquisition, behavior, key events, page views, e-commerce, if it is set up, demographics, all of that information is included in the reports section. The Explore section, which I told you we're just going to scratch the surface of, is for reporting. And you might be looking at me right now, can't see you, but you might be looking at me right now like, what do you mean the report section isn't for reporting, but the Explore section is for reporting? A little bit convoluted. With that being said, the report section, especially starting out, is a great place to start gathering those really basic data reports. And then once you get comfortable with that, we'll do a little bit of a dive into the Explore section, which will show just how intricate it can go down that rabbit hole without confusing anybody. And then finally, advertising section talks about key event attribution, conversion attribution, basically something you want people to do on site. And again, these are going to be snapshots, but by the time we go to the next section, I'm going to bounce out of this screen. We're going to go into causeinspiredmedias.com's analytics, and I'm going to walk you through step by step each one of these. Exploring acquisition. Acquisition, how you get your users into your website. Really important. User acquisition, how new users find your website for the first time. We're going to do a little fun example with this of why user acquisition is so important and what data you can actually drill down to here for it, and then how you can use that data. Traffic acquisition is where sessions come from regardless of new or returning. The small arrow, which we will go in depth with, I promise, is a small drop-down menu. You can look at acquisition by channel grouping or change it to source medium, campaign, or ad group name. And then finally, really important, that tiny little blue plus sign, which will become more prevalent, maybe the most important tool on this whole page. Why is it small, tiny, and kind of out of the way? I don't know, but I can tell you that it is the key tool to help us drill down to much more intricate data that is going to kind of unlock a bigger, deeper understanding of what your users are doing, and more importantly, changes that you can make to your business or decisions that you can make for your business or nonprofit organization website that in turn will have a huge effect. So I am going to, oh, and then you can customize your data further, adding filters to view specific information with about your acquisition numbers. What you can answer via those filters is like, what channels are you driving traffic to a specific landing page? Meaning, is our paid search driving people to the right page? Is our organic social, our Facebook posts, are they driving people to the right page, and what actions are they taking there? And then finally, how are my ads with UTMs performing, right? You add UTMs to all of your ads. You can directly see how they're performing here. With that, before we get into audience insights, I'm going to bounce out real quick. And can I get very quickly just a emoji or a chat that you guys can see the analytics screen right now? Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. Really appreciate it. I would look really silly if I just started talking to you without actually being able to show this. Okay, you're thrown into a GA4 account for the first time, right? You have no idea what you're doing. Here's essentially what it's going to look like. It may or may not have data populated depending on when it was installed. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll over the report section. And this is, again, your best friend. This is how you become dangerous within GA4. And if you take anything away from this, it is how to find the report section, and specifically how to find these different subcategories being overview, user acquisition, traffic acquisition, lead acquisition. But we're going to start with user acquisition here. So what this essentially shows me is where all of my traffic is coming from, right? From cross-network, direct, paid search, organic search, referral, organic social, unassigned, right? Meaning that somebody might have their privacy settings turned off. I want you guys to get used to seeing unassigned in a GA4 account. I know it's kind of a bummer because if you're anything like me, I want all of the data, right? I want all of the data about everybody. With privacy laws becoming a bit more strict, users have the ability to protect their privacy, as they should. And if they have their privacy settings turned off through Google, you're going to see unassigned show up. But what I want to focus on here specifically is paid search, right? Because when we look at, what I'm going to do is I just clicked into the search bar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate paid search from everything else. By typing in paid search, it's simply going to filter it, right? We're only looking at paid search now. Do you guys remember what I told you was the most important tool on this whole page? This little plus button. Here's why. We have paid search. We've got it segmented. It gives us total users. It gives us new users. I love that. I actually want to change we're looking at the last 90 days. So what I want to do here is this plus button unlocks all sorts of ways that you can drill down with your audience specifically. And I wanted to give you an example of when I'm bringing people to causeinspired.com, right? Causeinspiredmedia.com. And I want to know, okay, how are they actually visiting us? What are they using regarding device? We can absolutely do that. I'm going to click platform and device. We're going to go device category. And what that's going to break it down is mobile, desktop, and tablet. Now, here's how this gets cool. I'm gonna sound really nerdy here, and I'm sorry in advance, but this stuff is just fun, right? And this is what I want you guys to be able to walk away with, even just this basic level of understanding, and be dangerous with. Let's say someone from your board, board members that may not live in the marketing world, might be a little bit more old school. They come to you and say, listen, I know that you have knowledge on the digital eco space, but I kind of know this business, and I just don't think that people visit us on their phones. I just don't think that's our audience. And I honestly don't think we should spend much money in optimizing our website to be all that mobile friendly. This is a perfect example of why GA4 is so important, because the idea that when I look at this and I see that through our paid search, right, what we are paying for, new users being 56% of that paid search are coming through on mobile devices. If my site is not optimized for mobile, that 56% of my audience that I'm paying to come to my site is going to get a product that isn't our best. And what does somebody do when they encounter a website that is either not optimized, is slow, looks outdated? They bounce. And they bounce quickly and they don't look back, right? They're going to continue on their journey, especially when it comes to nonprofits. You guys know you live in a very competitive ecosystem where you are trying to tap into the good of humanity. And if you don't give people a good first impression, you can lose them. That's why this data is so important. And that's why I want us to understand the use of being able to drill down in your user acquisition. And while there are so many different ways you can go, I could literally sit here and just talk to you guys for hours. You would all be asleep, because I do understand that if you don't live in this world, maybe you're not getting as excited as I am right now. Totally understand that, right? If you don't live in this world, this can be very much something that can put you to sleep. But please take this away. This base level of knowledge in GA4 will at least give you the tools to be confident enough to then go clicking around, right? Suddenly, instead of device category, you want to look at whatever that may be. You want to look at geography. You want to look at region. From our paid search, suddenly I'm able to say, oh, wow, California is leading the way. I have a national campaign. I'm spreading my budget equally across the United States, but California, Florida, Texas, New York, where the population of the United States is, there's no surprises there. Correlating that back to your client data of how many clients are we actually getting from these states. That's how you utilize it in real time. Whew, that was a lot of words. Let me drink water. So sorry, guys. Okay, continuing on. Ooh, I want to show you one more thing. Sorry. Remember when I told you that measurement ID? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to admin. Under admin, under data collection, right? Data collection and modification. We're going to be here again. So remember this. Data collection and modification, we're going to go into data streams. We're going to click through to all data streams here. There's your measurement ID. If you do not have the capability of adding GTM onto your site, Google Tag Manager onto your site, but you do have GA4 integration and it's asking you for a Google ID, a Google tag, it calls it different things depending on what CMS you're using. That is what you're going to want to plug in. This measurement ID of G dash whatever this is, it's simply copy that, plug it into your CMS through the back end of your CMS if it has that integration, and you're good to go. Okay, now let's bounce back. And present full screen. And one more time. Can I get a thumbs up because I'm paranoid of that you guys can see this full screen once more. You guys are the best. Thanks so much. All right, let's talk audience insights easily. Like I said, it's the most popular. I don't want anyone to leave this section disappointed, but we do live in a different age and time, right? Than 2007, 2008, early stages of the internet when data gathering was in full swing. We now live in a time where it's not as transparent of who your users are due to those privacy laws. But how do you learn about your audience in GA4? First and foremost, you have to enable your user details by accepting Google Signals data. This can be done through going into the admin section that we just showed. I'm going to show you guys how to do this, so don't feel the need to try to memorize this. Going into the admin section, going into those data settings, we were just there, then going into data collection. You're going to want to review Google's policies. You have to accept terms and conditions there, read them, make sure it fits for your organization. Now you can view the following user attributes. With this information, you can explore location, gender, age, interest, language, platform, operating system, browser, screen resolution, which is crazy, but it is absolutely something you can do. New user, returning user, engagement, overall retention. All of that information is potentially locked out to you without accepting Google Signals, right? So what we just did of showing what platform are we even using? What is their device, right? Could be locked out of that. Before we get into event tracking, let's dive in. So first off, let's talk about Google Signals and how to actually get there. I need to get into Google Signals here. Sorry, someone just knocked on my door. Distracted me a little bit. What I want to do is I want to go into data collection and modification, and I want to go down to data collection one more time. Under data collection, it's going to be the first thing that you guys see. Under here, this is where you're going to accept Google Signals. Read this policy. It is really important to do so. Okay, somebody is very insistent on making sure I answer this door. I'm going to be right back, guys. I'm so sorry.
Well, this is what happened in this day and age of virtual teaching. So I want to thank some of the team members from Cause Inspire who's on here. If one of you want to unmute yourself and tell us more about Cause Inspired. Oh, he's back.
I'm back. I'm so sorry, guys.
Oh, good.
I forgot I accidentally locked my wife out of the house because I forgot that I actually turned that. Sorry about that. So Google Signals data collection. Again, the last thing I'm going to stress on this page, read the policy, make sure that you and your organization fit into all of the categories. I can't actually tell you whether or not to accept it. That is up to you and internally your organization. But do understand that all of this information is unlocked once you do so. We're going to present full screen again. Sorry to throw you guys back and forth here. Let's talk event tracking, okay? For those who have lived in the conversion world, will the chat and Q&A be in the recording shared later? That I don't know, but we'll be able to answer that at the end. Event tracking, conversion tracking, right? For those of us who have lived in the marketing world, we've seen the rise of universal analytics shift over into GA4, and with it, Google has changed quite a bit, right? We're going to get into events, and this is where it can be a little bit convoluted. I'm going to try to go slow here because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page of an event versus a key event. But let's start with what is an event in the first place? An event, to put it simply, is a recorded specific interaction or occurrence on your website or app. Some examples of fairly generic events would be things like page view, session start, user engagement, which is basically Google's way of identifying if a user is engaged or not. This usually is someone spending over 10 seconds on site or clicking to more than 2 pages. First visit, scroll, click, view search results. What you need to take away from this is events are building blocks. They are building blocks to tracking much more sophisticated items that are much more important down the line. This is going to be brought up multiple times, but a great example of this is, let's take page view, for example, right? This is essentially saying somebody viewed a page. What page? Just a page, right? Any page. Is that useful to us? No, right? Maybe in a really generalized way, it's useful to us. But let's say a lot of nonprofits have donation platforms that are third parties, that after that donation, it then bounces back to a thank you page after that donation is complete. Tracking that thank you page is way more valuable than just tracking any pages. So that is just one small example of how a page view is the building blocks to build into a key event, right? Page view being the event, a key event is going to be a customized event that we build specifically that details somebody visited that thank you page instead of just any page. How we do this, how we make the shift from event, generalized, to key event, conversion, is through custom definitions. But here are the most common questions that I get asked along the way. How do I know my users are interacting with my website and are engaged, right? Well, you can view and monitor their engagement from the overview section. How can I find the details of my specific events? I want to specifically see what people are doing on site. This is a great example of what I just explained with page view versus thank you page view, right? How do I find the details of a page view? That's through a custom definition. We get a little bit in the weeds here, and I don't want anybody to be intimidated, but custom definitions are basically further data points or labels that you plug onto your account to track. So for instance, and I'll showcase this, when you have a page view, you have to drill down further. And how you drill down further is going to be one of those custom definitions. That could be page title by chance that includes thank you. And we'll show an example of that. But all you need to take away from this slide is custom definitions are really, really important to your account. And don't worry, we'll absolutely showcase this. What is a key event? Key event, conversion. Same thing. Google likes to change names of things, but we're going with key event from now on. I'm breaking old habits of calling them conversions. So what is a key event in GA4? This is an important event, right? This is an event that you specifically have targeted as a key event for your users to complete on your website. So these can be purchases, outbound link clicks, file downloads, signups. Why should you care? Because being able to single out those specific key events is going to make your life so much easier for reporting and being able to monitor what your website is doing. If you have a huge mail, like direct mail campaign that has a QR code attached to it that leads to a very specific page that you can only access through that QR code, you should absolutely have key events keyed to that specific page to gauge, did this direct mail campaign work? It's not all just digital. Google Analytics can help you in a multitude of ways, but you can also send these key events to platforms like Google Ads to improve your performance. Selfishly, as someone who runs, monitors, and lives Google Ad grants, GA4 and key events are the lifeblood of a grant account. Where we find success with the Google grant is building on conversion data. Without that conversion data, we're basically not sending signals to your Google grant to say, this is working or this isn't working. For instance, we usually start accounts out with a key event of a 3-minute timer just to showcase, one, to feed the account data, right, when it's had none, but also to tell Google, hey, this person spent 3 minutes on site, right? We're going to get creepy here, bear with me, but this is Google algorithm down to a T. Let's profile this user and let's find other individuals who are willing to or who fit the mold of spending 3 minutes on site. And that's a fairly generic conversion to start out with, but that's when we level up. We take that conversion data and then we level up to newsletter signups, to volunteerism, to donation, right? I know all of you wish that somebody would visit your website for the very first time. And in doing so, they make a donation, right? Without knowing anything about you. How often does that happen? From someone who's worked with a plethora of different grants, it's rare, right? So being able to have key events at every stage of that donation process, donation funnel, if you will, helps you stay in tune with who your donors are, what they're doing, what their needs are, right? Because we always forget our donors do have specific needs from our website. So that way, when giving season comes around and we're quickly approaching it, have we done steps 1 through 3 to get to that donation? Key events are really important in that facet. We're going to talk about types of key events. There are predefined key events. These are ones that are just built into your Google Grant account, or Google Grant, sorry. Told you I live in the Google Grant. These live in your GA4 from the moment it's created, right? You can't change them, you can't take them off. Doesn't mean you have to import them into your Google Ads account, but they are going to live there. I will say, spoiler alert to the next slide, a lot of them aren't going to be very relevant to you guys. You can mark an event as key events. Again, if you want to go through and mark the page view event that we just saw as a key event, I don't recommend it. But if you want to basically showcase anybody who views a page on the site, we want that to be counted as a key event or a conversion, you can do that. But here is where it becomes really important. Custom key events. This is where we can dictate what parameters using those custom definitions dictate what a event or a key event looks like. What should be a key event? That thank you page should be a key event. If someone makes it to that thank you page, that fires a conversion versus all of the page views that we talked about. Sorry to keep rehashing that, but I do feel like it really signals here is the main difference between a page view and a page view that means so much more, especially when you're assigning conversion value. We're not going to get too in the weeds there. Here are your predefined key events. So, do you need Google Signals for the Google grant? My team will absolutely be able to answer that. Predefined key events. First open for mobile apps, App Store subscription convert for mobile apps, App Store subscription renew for mobile apps, in-app purchases for mobile apps, and then purchases, website and mobile apps. Like I said, most of the predefined key events are not going to be useful for 99% of nonprofits. Now, if you do have a really strong app and you're not already using GA4, amazing. This is going to help you. But we are really going to more than likely lean into key events, custom key events that we build from the ground up. A predefined key event will always be marked as a key event. You can't turn it on or off, nor do you want to. You will need to have e-commerce set up in the site for purchases to come through. That is a whole nother silo that we could spend 3 hours on, but that doesn't fit into 101. Marking an event as a key event. In the configure tab, you'll see that you already have events shown like those page views, file downloads. All you have to do is mark as a key event. There's a little star. I'm going to show you guys in a second to toggle on and off. Toggling the key event does not apply historical data. This is really important. Let's say, Ben, listen, I've had GA4 on this site for 2 years and I didn't even know it. I've never even logged into it. So when I flip the file downloads over to key events, I'm going to have all of that historic data, aren't I? I'm afraid not. Because it wasn't labeled as a key event, because it wasn't labeled as a key event with those custom definitions, those file downloads are just going to sit as events in the back end. But from the moment that you click that star, which we'll showcase here, from then on, it will track file downloads as key events. Marking a key event will only start to show key events data within 24 hours. This has actually changed recently. I don't want to promise anything. Normally it took 24 hours. We've found that GA4 recently has become much quicker, where we're able to mark key events. Somebody fires that key event, and then within minutes or at least an hour, we're seeing that show up in real time. Okay, before we get into this one, I want to go through the basics of what these events look like in the first place. So when we go into reports, and when we go into engagement, right? Again, report section. What is the report section? Your best friend. We're going to go into events. And remember, events, these are fairly generic. These are going to just be your generic top of funnel. Doesn't really matter what these generically say. These are made to be built upon in the future. When we talk about, okay, Ben, that's great, but you talked about turning them into a key event. You talked about the ability to flip this over to where are the stars that you promised us? Well, if I can click on this admin section very carefully, we're going to go into admin and we're going to scroll down to events. And in this event section, it's going to start you with key events, right? But we want to go to recent events. This is going to list all of the events that have fired recently. And you see how we have the star that is either marked or not marked. If you wanted to mark something as a key event, if I wanted to go into causeinspiredmedia.com and I wanted to make every outbound link click from this point on, anything that goes off site, a key event, we can absolutely do so with just one click. I'm going to undo that because my boss will not be happy that our conversion data was flooded by all of these outbound link clicks that are now being treated the same as somebody contacting us through interest in the Google grant and those form submissions. So when it comes to recent events, this is going to be filled with things that just come standard within your guys' GA4. A lot of these you won't see, like timers are built in GTM by us, but you will see things like page view, outbound link click, the ones that we went over earlier in the presentation. I wouldn't recommend turning any of those into key events though. And here's why. We're going to get into actually building off of one of those page views into a key event. Present. Full screen. Thanks for sticking with me. A little sip of water. All right. We're going to customize the key event you're tracking by using parameters. I love these thumbs up before I even have to say anything of like, can you guys see this? You guys are the best. Customize the key events you're tracking by using your parameters to further define them, right? This is how we get specific. Tell me if you've heard this example before. You're going to find a standard event already in GA4 that you want to use as your base, as your foundation for your key event in the future, such as page view. In the admin section, which we were just in, we're going to select events and then we're going to create an event. We're going to name our new event, and you always want to use underscores. When you're watching this back, when this recording back, I'm going to say that again, always use underscores. It's basically the language of GA4, and it's what it understands. It does not understand a simple space, and it will get confused. So name your new event, make sure to always use underscores. Thank you, page view. Your first parameter defines the event you want to use. So our event name equals page view, right? Base event name, right? Base event, page view, we know that. Now we're going to add a condition to define the event further. Page view contains page view, page title. There's a few things you can use here. I don't want to bring out too many because for those of us just starting out, this can get confusing. Contains thank you. Essentially what we've done is we've created an event that when that page view, page title, page URL, whatever you want to use, contains thank you, that's what fires. And it's very specific to that page. Now, finding the specific custom definition that is unique to only that page can be tricky at times, but after you do this once, you're going to be able to really understand how to move forward. Before we do this, I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. So if we wanted to create an event, I'm going to go back to the home page here just so we can go slowly through it. Homepage, admin, without hitting the button. Come on. We're going to go down to events. It's going to have key events and it's going to have recent events. We're going to create an event. You're going to name your event. Remember, that doesn't work, right? That's a space, not an underscore. Don't ask me why. I don't have a good answer for you, other than this is the language of GA4. Page view, thank you. I would probably do thank you page view, but regardless. You can actually mark the event key right here, right now, which I've already done for another one. We're not going to set a value. If you'd like to, someone visits a thank you page for your donation and you have a general idea of our average donation is this, you can absolutely enter a key event value. But what I usually recommend is don't set key event values. If data rolls through, it rolls through. And then you have to decide the counting method, once per event, once per session. Do you want this to fire every time it happens, or do you want this to fire once every session? So if I go through and I visit that thank you page twice, meaning I make 2 donations, in theory, I want to do once per event instead of once per session, because even though I made 2 donations, it's only going to count the 1 session. Okay, basically, you're going to ignore all of this and you're going to view more options. I'm going to go slow through this because if you've never made a convert or key event before, this can get confusing. Your first parameter is your event name. It's always going to be your event name. It's going to be equals page view. We know they're viewing a page. Your secondary, your condition here, this is a custom definition, right? Page location, page or click URL. Those are both examples of custom definitions. Contains, usually want to do contains, not equals. Thank you. And just like that, we can create this. I already created this once, and if I create too many of these, it's going to be a lot more work to delete them. But essentially, because I marked it as a key event the first time I did this, it's going to show right up in key events. If you don't mark it as a key event right then, it's not going to show up in recent events or key events because it has not fired, right? So I recommend, if you are making something knowing it is going to be a key event going forward, mark it as you build it. When we talk about custom definitions, I don't want to get too in the weeds. Again, I told you this was 101 and I'm going a little bit deeper than that. But when we talk about custom definitions, there's a wide variety of what they do, what they mean, what is their use, from click URL to form ID, form URL. Form ID is a great example of, you have a ton of forms on site. Are all of your form submissions on your sites worth the same? And before anybody says yes, do you have a search option on your website that allows people to search for, I don't know, relevant content? That's also considered a form submission. So if somebody is literally filling out a volunteer form submission, that needs to be separated from generic form submissions as a whole. And how you do that is with form ID or form URL. Form ID is going to be a unique strand, unique to that specific form, depending on how your site's coded. Form URL is where that actual form submission happened. So with that, if we had a form submission happen on charity.org/volunteer, I know I'm really creative, /volunteer, and that's the only form submission on that page, we know that we can use form URL in that case. That's just an example of a custom definition. Okay, before we get too in the weeds and I start losing people, we're going to move on with tracking key events with built-in events. So first of all, here's kind of the progress or the progression of how to even start building a key event. Is, first of all, you have to decide what you want to track, right? I want to track a donation button click. Okay, we know it's a click. Great start. We want to note the name of the event. We know that clicks are generally tracked as an event at a general level. And then we either create a custom definition that is unique to that button click. It can be the URL. It can be the actual click text. And then we want to create a new event, just like we did with the thank you page. We want to mark that event as a key event when it comes through. And then after you mark it as a key event, we're done. We just have to wait for it to actually fire. You can test it yourself, or you can just wait for the data to come through if you're confident with how you built it. Custom reports. Okay, I know we're running out of time, and this one is the one that I said I was just going to scratch the surface on, and I'm going to hold true to that. Explore. The Explore section allows you to get much more intricate with your reporting, right? It allows a plethora of different templates and data that you can use and pull depending on what your needs are. I do recommend that you start with the report section if you're just starting out, right? That report section is going to be able to allow you to explore without breaking things. You can break these Explore reports where it's a little bit hard to get them to function again and you have to start over. That's why the reporting section is a great place to start, because you can click around and you're 99% of the time not going to break anything. So use templates to get started. Find a report style that you trust. I always suggest free form to start. Creating custom reports, first you're going to add a variable you'll want to use in the custom report. Then you want to choose how it's visualized. Freeform, pie chart, plot grid, bar chart. There's a bunch of different options here, whatever fits your current needs. You're going to add in the dimension that you want to see at the row level. For example, if you want to show data for each traffic channel that we looked at in the report section before, now add in the dimension of page title, right? So these channels are going to these pages more often than not. And then finally, you want to add in the specific value, which is users. And I'll give you an example of what this report actually looks like by the end of it. Explore. Actually, I already created this report in Freeform. So again, we did session channel, page title. Don't actually want event count. You tried to sneak in there. I just want views. So essentially what this is going to break down is, oh, we can see that paid search within the last 30 days, paid search visited the home page 281 times. It hit the grant page 508 times. And what this tells us is basically from our paid search ads where we're landing people on in the first place. But this is really important for things like organic search, organic social, referrals, right? Where backlinks are across the web and how they're interacting back to your site. A lot of organizations, this happens all the time, have backlinks or partnered links back there, referrals that they don't know exist anymore. And then they take a page off site and next thing you know, they're sending people to 404s. Not helpful to their organization. And again, if that's a new user, not a great first first example of your organization. Okay, with that, I know the end of that was blitzkrieg. There was a lot of information when we talk about key events, the actual explore section. To bring this to the top, what I want you to take away from this, don't be afraid to go into your GA4 account. Starting your GA4 account, figuring out what your website integration capabilities are, and then just going into that report section and just getting comfortable with extracting the data, provided that you accept those signals, and then just figuring out new ways that this can actually optimize your daily flow. I know more than I did when I started the seminar. Kathy, I'd love to hear that. That's all I ask for. Are you guys an expert by the end of this? No. Sorry, I don't mean to be rude. None of you have become experts from this 101 course, but I want you guys as leaders in the industries to have these tools available because you should be monitoring your data and too many nonprofits don't. So with that, questions, by all means. I know you guys have been putting questions in, and to my moderators here, thank you so much for being able to answer those. I appreciate all of the questions you guys have asked. I appreciate your emojis and your attention to detail. I just want to say, if there are questions, by all means, I know I ran up against time here. Feel free to put those into chat or into the Q&A, which I have not been monitoring because I will go down a rabbit hole. If there are any other questions, by all means, please let me know. But otherwise, thank you, right? With that, we had Justin put in a direct link for the ad grant managed services. If you guys are not taking advantage of the ad grant, look into it. Every nonprofit should be doing this. Use your GA4, look into Google Ad Grants. I appreciate everyone's attention. I appreciate all of your questions. I appreciate your emojis. You guys are one of the funnest chat rooms that I have had in a really long time. So thank you so much. And thanks for putting up with my voice attempting to go out 3 or 4 times throughout this. So if there are no more questions, I hope you all have a don't leave the wife locked out anymore, Ben. Okay, that is great advice. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Stay safe, stay cool. all of that. Thank you guys.